Hi, today I thought I'll take you around the house and collect a couple of cuttings from my favorite indoor plants, and I'll show you how you can propagate them in water. At the end of this video, I will also try and share some fun DIY ideas on how you can display them in your home. Also, I would like to thank the sponsors of this video, Honey. We will talk about them in detail later in the video. Alright, so let's begin! I'm going to try two kinds of water propagation methods today with about 8 to 10 kinds of indoor plants that I have. You can also try this method with most of the indoor plants that you might have, so you can have more plant babies or plant pups from the plants that you already have, and you don't have to go outdoors anywhere. The first plant we're going to start with is fiddle leaf fig. It's a beautiful tall plant but an expensive one too. So what we're going to do is look for a node which is just underneath from where this leaf is coming out, and I will snip it from here. So I'm going to make multiple cuttings out of this one stem here. And as for this plant, now what is going to happen is, I also showed in my rubber plant video, so since we have cut it from the top, this will initiate side growth. And now let me show you how you propagate this. We are going to make two cuttings out of this. I will separate it from here. And dip it in honey or shahad. And we put our cutting in water. For the second cutting, I'm also going to add some cinnamon powder. This will basically help to protect the cutting from any rot and help in root formation. I am going to start this one in soil. The success of the cinnamon powder and honey is relatively much lower than the rooting hormone that you get commercially, but since we don't have access to it and I want to grow as many plants I can during this lockdown, so I'm going to use these and see if this works out. Alright, so let's move on to the other cuttings. The second plant on my list is this beautiful Monstera, and many of you might recognize this from my 1-year-old video that I did about air purifying indoor plants, and I had just started it from I think 2 or 3 leaf cuttings, but now it has grown so much, and I also added this moss sticks. For the cuttings, what we're going to do is the same thing. First, find out a node. In these plants, identifying a node is very easy. You would see such roots coming out. So we're going to clip this from here. Whenever you're taking a cutting, just make sure that the stem or the cutting has at least 2 leaves or so, because this will help sustain. But if there are more than 5 or 6 leaves, it will put a lot of stress on the cutting. Having 2 to 3 leaves is ideal on a cutting. Next is silver Porthos. For silver Porthos, also the same thing, locate the node and snip. However, in this case, the root is not very evident, but we know that this is the node because this is the point from which 2 leaves are coming. Lucky bamboo is also an easy one to propagate. Just take the branch, you recognize the bulge, this is the bud, so we're going to just cut it under it. So we'll have 2 lucky bamboos from 1 branch. The 5th plant is croton. For taking its cuttings, use only the non-woody or the younger part of it. The 6th plant is jade. This will also not easily grow in water. I'll show you what you can do about it. We will use these side branches. Just keep 3-4 leaves on the top and get rid of the rest. The 7th plant is Glioma. I have this beautiful pink Glioma. We have to do the same thing. Spot the point of division of the leaves, which is the bud, and snip underneath it. The next plant is ZZ plant. Ideally, this plant likes to be propagated from the bulbs, but this one can also be propagated from a stem, although that's a little dicey. We will need some kind of a treatment, but we'll get to it. Try and look for a healthy stem, but not a huge one either. I think this one looks good. The ninth plant is this beautiful Philodendron that I have in our living room. It's actually coming up with new leaves, and to increase side growth in it, I'm going to take the cutting from the top. And the 10th plant is the snake plant. Since this one doesn't have a bud, we're going to cut the leaf closest to the base. And the interesting part about snake plant is that from the same leaf, we can have multiple cuttings. Just remember which part was the upper part and which part was the lower one. So the lower one will remain the lower part and the upper. I hope you understand what I mean. Alright, so I have all the cuttings with me and we're going to start them in water. But before that, I want to talk about honey. I'm among those people who find online shopping very convenient, but finding applicable coupon codes for that equally difficult. And that's what got me excited to work with our sponsors for today's video. So imagine shopping on your favorite website, Flipkart. When you check out, this box will drop down. Just click apply coupons. It will start looking for suitable coupons on the internet and you will see the price of your cart drop. About a month back, I bought this mic with honey and I ended up saving about 1,000 rupees in my cart. Isn't that super cool? Honey has helped saving $2 billion for its 17 million members. By not having honey, you could be simply passing up free money. And now it's also part of the PayPal family, which makes it legit. So next time you go online shopping to save your money, all that you have to do is follow the link down below, joinhoney.com/gardenup and click on add to Chrome. Pretty straightforward, right? Alright, so let's get to our cuttings. For plants such as Monstera, silver Porthos, money plant, Philodendron, snake plant, Glioma and lucky bamboo, we are going to directly add them in water to grow roots. You can keep them in a separate jar or all of them together as well. I would categorize all of these into the same kind of cuttings, that is the soft stem ones. For the second category, which are the hard stems and they do not root that easily. For example, Jade, croton, the fiddle leaf fig and even the ZZ plant. Once you have scratched the surface of the base of the stem a little, use some rooting hormone or a promoter for it and then put them in water. For these hardy stems, you can also plant them directly in soil. Now, a lot of you ask me that should we do the water method for propagation or the soil method? See, it totally depends, whatever you find convenient. I like the water method because first the thing is I can visually check what is happening to the stem. If it started rotting, then I can remove that stem and protect the other ones. And secondly, it's easier for me to follow up. I can see that the roots have started or not. If the roots have started, then I can put it in a bigger pot accordingly. Also, this is much more convenient to move around with. If you want to go ahead with the soil method, then yes, of course, you can go ahead with the soil method. Although I do feel that for pothos and these soft stem plants, if you directly put them in soil, most of the times I've seen that they start drooping because the moisture content in soil is of course relatively lower. So I feel they do better in water. Many of you ask me that my pothos is doing well, but it's not growing that rapidly. What should I do? See, if it's in soil, it'll do better. If you want to further improve the growth of it in soil, then you can add a moss stick because that helps the plant to absorb more moisture, and generally when it gets more moisture, the growth increases. It rapidly increases. So if it's in water, transfer it in soil. If it's in soil and you want to further improve the growth, add any kind of a moss stick. This applies for all those plants who have these aerial roots. But for the other indoor plants like the ZZ plant, the croton, the snake plant, to improve the growth, you should keep an eye on watering. So ZZ plant does not require a lot of water. Do not add water more than once in 10 days for ZZ plant. But croton really likes water. So add water every 2 to 3 days. Also add a fertilizer. For any plant, if you add a fertilizer, you will see that the growth shoots up. So make sure that you're adding a fertilizer. You can also make fertilizer at home. It doesn't have to be a chemical fertilizer. I don't recommend that. You can make compost. I've done a couple of videos on how you can make compost at home. And I think at this time, it's a great time to make compost at home. Use the kitchen waste, all the kitchen scraps, and dump them in a bucket or a terracotta pot. Add some curd and you would have good khad compost within like a month or so. Alright, so now to display these plants in a beautiful way, I'm going to share some fun DIY ideas on how you can display them in a more creative way. For the first idea, you can use a half of a plastic bottle. Make 3 holes on 3 different sides and add strings for hanging. I'm using this wooden stick. You can also use dried branch for this. For the second idea, if you want to go for something easier and classier, you would just need a natural fiber string. And wrap that around the mouth of the jar. If none of the previous ideas please you, you can just add something at the base of the transparent containers, like these polished stones. In 20 to 30 days, most of these plants will develop roots. And try to keep your cutting away from direct sun. Do keep them in a well-lit space which gets a lot of light but not direct sun. Do let me know down below if you like such detailed videos. I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Before we sign off for today's video, here is a quick update on all the veggies that I had grown 14 days back. This is the methi. So, couple of them sprouted immediately. But after that, no more methi has sprouted, but I think they might within a few days. This is how the radishes are doing. They're doing pretty well actually. The growth is quite good. But as for the carrots, there's nothing really happening here. I think they might have lost their fertility to grow new vegetative parts, probably because it's a cold storage one that had been stored for a very long time. This is how the dhania or coriander is doing. It has finally sprouted. For wheat grass, I have already taken 2 cuttings and now I'm not taking any more cuttings. So I'm going to let it dry and then I'll reuse the soil for something else. And for mint, I shifted them indoors because they had started drooping outside and they've developed roots, but they're not still big enough. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go live on 19th of April 2020 at 12 noon. It's a Sunday. So you can join me on the live and I will try and grow these mint cuttings in soil with you guys. I'll also try and take questions related to gardening or whatever you want to know in that live video. I hope to see you there then.